Hi, this is Jeff Curto, and welcome to episode number 92 of Camera Position, the podcast about the creative side of photography. Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras in New Orleans, Louisiana, one of the greatest cities, I think, in the world, and a really interesting and wonderful town. I had the good fortune this spring to visit New Orleans the weekend before Fat Tuesday, the weekend before Mardi Gras, and took in some of the parades that happened during the Mardi Gras season. I have the really great good fortune of having a son who is in the marching band at Tulane University, is a freshman there, and so I get to kind of visit my favorite city in the one of my favorite cities in the world on a regular basis. And this spring it was really fun. I got to march along with the Tulane University marching band and enjoyed myself immensely in one of the greatest circuses I've ever seen. The crowds along the side of the roadway for these big, long Mardi Gras parades, really an awful lot of fun. And I'd like to thank the Barry Spanier, the Tulane University marching band, for letting me tag along with the band and take some pictures and enjoy myself with my son. But New Orleans, one of the great towns, really one of the great cities in the world, a city filled with great food, tremendous music, tremendous multicultural heritage that goes back really a long, long way in terms of history, and really embraces all of those things and is seemingly bouncing back rather well in most of the places from the horrors of Hurricane Katrina, and so it's one of my favorite places. And one of my favorite things to do in New Orleans is to go to this tremendous art gallery, this tremendous photography gallery called A Gallery for Fine Photography. It's at the corner of Chartres and Bienville Streets in the French Quarter in New Orleans, and I remember going to this gallery in a different location way back in the early 1990s. And have always, whenever I stop in New Orleans, I always try to make a stop to A Gallery for Fine Photography. And one of the things I love about it is that it's a gallery that is not your standard issue kind of fusty white-walled cube like you might find in New York City or Chicago or Los Angeles or any one of the great cities that have really high-end photography galleries. This is a high-end photography gallery run by a man named Joshua Mann Pailet, and Joshua Mann Pailet is a guy who just loves photography. He collects photography, he sells photography, and this last time when I was down in New Orleans, I got a chance to have a little chat with Joshua Mann Pailet and thought I would share that chat with you because it's a tremendous story about his career as an art dealer and a sort of an art maven, a photography dealer to people who are interested in the medium. But it also dovetails nicely with this idea of being a consumer of the thing that we produce, being a consumer of the photographs that we love, and having a place like A Gallery for Fine Photography in New Orleans is a tremendous, wonderful thing to be able to go in, look at art, think about those photographs that you love, and talk with a fellow lover of photography about those kinds of pictures. So here's our conversation, a conversation with Joshua Mann Pailet at A Gallery for Fine Photography in New Orleans, Louisiana. If you would just tell me just a little bit about A Gallery for Fine Photography and how you got started and what you have and what you do.
How long an answer do you want?
As long as you want to talk. I just put fresh batteries in this yesterday, so I'm all good.
I would describe A Gallery for Fine Photography as a labor of love. I fell in love with photography at Rice University in 1971 and 2 when Yves Sonneman was my teacher there. It was my introduction to great photography, to the history of photography. I was working in an antique shop and finding old daguerreotypes and tintypes and stereo cards. And then a major art collector in Houston bought some of my photographs that I had produced. And that led me to find out what art galleries were showing photography. Were they showing photography? How did it work? And found virtually none. Lee Whitkin in New York City, but none of the painting galleries and so on were interested. And so that planted a little seed in my head that I would maybe start an art gallery and show all the legends and still continue to do my own work, keep it separate. And so in 1973, the day I graduated my second degree, which was in business, a graduate degree in business, an undergraduate degree in economics, I got a license to open a gallery in Houston, Texas. 2 weeks later, I decided I didn't want to live in Houston the rest of my life. So I just sold privately a little bit and got my feet wet, and I went to San Francisco and lived there, and I thought I would open there. Came back through New Orleans. It's 1973, early 74, and the New Orleans Museum of Art decided to collect photography as a mission, John Bullard at the museum. Those factors encouraged me to stay here, open it up in my apartment on Magazine Street to the public in 1975. 6 months later, Ansel Adams agreed to loan me 20 photographs, and that was the turning point. Sold 13 of those babies, and that allowed me to give up my part-time job and start trying to run a gallery and make it pay for itself. And therefore it evolved. Great support from all these legendary photographers. Ansel opened the door. And 37 years later, we're now on the corner of Chartres and Bienville in New Orleans with a range of photography from Fox Talbot. You can walk in here and see a Fox Talbot, the beginning of photography. You can see all the legends of the 19th century, the Julia Margaret Camerons, the Muybridges, right up to the Stieglitz-Steichen era, and swing right through the Cartier-Bressons and Corteges and Robert Franks, Arbus, Winogrand, Adams, obviously. My great love for Edward Curtis and the North American Indians continues to this day. We get into more contemporary work where I like the Jock Sturgis, the Michael Kenna. Nowadays we have the Louvier and Vanessa, the husband and wife team, Josephine Sacabo, my longtime veterans like Jerry Yulesman and Elliot Irwitt, and I could go on and on. The roster here is rather remarkable. It's been a blessed journey, and I hope the best is yet to come.
And you weren't here the first time I visited this gallery. You were not here on Chartres and Bienville. You were on Royal, I think.
That is correct.
Is that right?
The transition in the history I just described was from Magazine Street, from my apartment to an actual gallery to across the street. And then in 1988, I came to Royal Street. I took a chance, a real gamble, rolled the dice again in my life as an art dealer. And it succeeded. So from 1988 to 2002, I was on Royal Street in 2 different locations. But I had the opportunity to buy this building on this corner, Chartres and Bienville. And that's a real key motive for me as a business person and an individual. I like controlling
your destiny.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so in late 2002, we moved everything over here. And just recently, we opened up the second building, so the gallery is even more, I believe, even more dramatic and accessible.
I was excited when I walked by, and unfortunately, Mardi Gras hours, you weren't open, but I was really excited to walk by and see that you'd expanded. That's just really neat.
Thank you very much. It was last November. It was a tribute to Herman Leonard's life as a photographer, as a great jazz photographer. He had passed away last year at the age of 87, and to inaugurate the room, we had a second-line jazz funeral from Herman through the French Quarter.
It's a beautiful thing. He's an amazing photographer.
Amazing man and friend. He was driven out of here by Katrina and lived his last few years in Los Angeles. But literally, within 3 days of the end of his life, he was emailing me with ideas of what he wanted to do next and what portfolio and what he wanted to print and what exhibition he wanted to make and another book he wanted to do. So Herman worked right up to the end. It was a glorious journey for him.
That's great. Pronounce your last name for me, because I want to make sure I get it right.
Well, I appreciate that. It's Joshua Mann Pailet.
Pailet.
In France, where the name comes from, it would be Payet. But New Orleans has a way of kind of twisting things, just like Carondelet becomes Carondelet and so on here. And Chart Street becomes Chartres. So my gallery is on Chartres Street.
Burgundy.
My last name is Pailet.
All right. Very good. Well, thanks. That's very helpful.
I appreciate it very much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Joshua Mann Pailet as much as I enjoyed talking with him. What a great guy. What a great gallery. What a great mission. And what a great story. And again, a guy who loves photography. He's a photographer himself and has spent his life collecting images and bringing images to the people who want to be able to live with them the way he lives with them in his gallery. So when you're down in New Orleans, go to the Chart Room bar across the street and get a cold beer and down that, and then head over to the gallery for fine photography, kitty corner on Chartres and Bienville, and enjoy walking through one of the really great art galleries, one of the great photo galleries that I've ever experienced. So that's it for this episode of Camera Position, and I look forward to having you join me next time on the next episode of Camera Position, the podcast about the creative side of photography. Camera Position is a proud member of the Photocast Network, your photo resource in the potosphere. photocastnetwork.com